Hey guys, Jengar here. Welcome to today's realistic review in which we are taking a look at the F8F-1 sitting at 5.0 battle rating. The Bearcats are great planes made after the Second World War. Never saw action there, but they're basically what the Americans came up with after looking at all the props that they got their hands on from the Second World War, and they tried to make the ideal fighter. And it is a great thing, and I think maybe in reality it should have been a little bit better, because in War Thunder it doesn't always quite hit the mark, and that is mainly, especially with this first one, because of the 450 cals and the overheating that this plane experiences. This is some of the worst overheating that I've seen in the game. It's absolutely atrocious. And the 450 cals, I mean, it is firepower and you can shoot planes down, but at a 6.3 battle rating with the planes that you'll face, it is a little bit underwhelming, let's say, when it comes to effective firepower, stopping power, and getting from a small deflection shot, getting a plane destroyed. It doesn't always happen. You need sustained burst on target and stuff like that, so it just costs you a little bit extra. You need constant management of the overheating, and the combination of those two things make it a frustrating plane to fly. A plane in which you will get a lot of assists, which is maybe something for some goals in the game, might be handy. And yeah, a little bit of frustration in this plane, a little bit underwhelming, as I said. The performance is great, but all in all, I did not enjoy the plane. I have to say that I did not quite enjoy it, and although I did get a couple of matches that are a little bit nicer, like this one, most of my matches were 1-kill matches and with 2 or 3 assists, and that is basically usually subpar. In the end, I did get a good results in this plane, but then especially because I was flying in squads, which always makes a difference in that case, but with this plane that definitely helps even more, because of your allies, and they sometimes are the bait, you get a little bit longer on the target and stuff like that. But yeah, so it's beneficial, especially for this plane, to fly in a squad. Really helps the plane out, but it is a more than averagely frustrating plane. Oh, but before we get into the details of the plane, let's make sure that you like the video, leave me a comment. I'm quite curious what you think of this Bearcat. Did you fly it? How frustrating was it for you? Also share, and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. That really helps me out. More than half of you who watch my videos aren't subscribed yet, so let's do it. You've got nothing to lose, let's say. I also want to ask you to check the description for Discord if you want to interact with me, sometimes fly together, and for my locals and Rumble channels. So this plane, at sea level, the maximum speed is 625 kilometers an hour without WEP and 650 with. At 4,500 meters she can come up to 515 without WEP, 535 with, and finally 6,500 meters she'll take you to 468 without WEP and 472 kilometers an hour with WEP. These speeds are in indicated airspeed without mech. Now the WEP power, according to the stats from Gaijin, should be a little bit more pronounced in my opinion, because it doesn't end up that way. This is a very fast plane at sea level. 650 with WEP is absolutely amazing, but she does drop off rapidly when she goes to altitude. So this plane is quite effective up until about 3,000 meters, and after that she slowly starts to decline. 4,500 meters she's reasonable but nothing special, and then at 6,500 meters it's even more average when it comes to the 5.7 battle rating even, and almost no WEP or emergency power there. So yeah, not too great on the higher altitudes, fantastic on the deck and on the lower altitudes. This plane, absolutely amazing. Top speed in a dive in the plane, 786 before she redlines, with an 850 rip twice in my testing. If you pull high G's, this can be a little bit earlier. I ripped it once in a very, very long dive when I started flying it at the end of the dive. You sometimes get surprised if you're not paying attention to by the red line, because this plane has fantastic performance in a dive and great engine honor and stuff like that, so you have excellent acceleration. And when you go into that dive, the window between your red line and the rip speed is very quickly reached. And because the compression in speed, there's not a lot of drag on the plane when it comes to that. The acceleration stays relatively fast compared to other planes at the lower ends of the dive, where many other planes start to slow down in their acceleration. This plane doesn't, so it's very fast there. So you reach that speed very quickly, so keep in mind at the lower ends of the dive you gotta be careful. Control stiffening starts in at around 550 for the aileron, 650 a second tick, and then the roll rate becomes a little bit less good. The elevator controls stay very functional at high speed, so she pulls out of dives fairly rapidly. So if you keep an eye on your red line and you just start to pull out when you hit the red line, you should be fine. Stall speed is around 130 kilometers an hour, which is quite alright for this plane at the battle rating. Firepower is bad though. As I said, you have two 12.7mm M2 Browning machine guns with 325 rounds, and you have another pair with 300 rounds. The outer pair has 300 rounds. Now these ammo loads are decent, but they are not fantastic compared to some of the other American planes at this battle rating, which for their 50 cals will often have 400 or 500 rounds in the guns. So this 325 is actually on the lower side when you compare it to other planes at the higher battle ratings for the Americans. This plane can also be equipped with bombs, HVIR rockets, tiny TIMs, gun pods, and combinations between several of those options, which gives this plane a lot of versatility when it comes to rolls and when it comes to what you want to do in air RB. But you can also take her into naval, and you can take her into ground RB. I think the plane can be quite efficient there. It doesn't have torpedoes, but it does have bombs that can do a lot of damage. Acceleration in the plane, as I said, both in a straight line and in the dive, is excellent. The energy retention is also excellent in the horizontal and in the vertical. She does great there, especially with web, but you gotta watch out for that overheating, as I said. Climb rate in the plane is also great. You do not get an air spawn or anything, so you just start off the runway. But you'll be climbing as one of the better planes out there, so that's great to have. Turn time in the plane is decent, good with flaps. Flaps rip off only at around 670 kilometers an hour, which is actually quite good, above its top speed in a straight line. Roll rate in the plane is decent. It rolls off center a little bit, starting at around 500 kilometers an hour. It starts to roll a little bit off center, a little bit of a rudder problem there, but not as pronounced as in the Mustangs. So you will, if you paid a little bit of mind, you will not be pulled off target if you don't move too much in the final turns. But as I said, it does roll off center, you can see it, and at around 500 kilometers an hour. Just pay attention to that roll and you'll be fine. Maneuverability overall is decent to good, with that overheating, as I said, being atrocious. It needs constant management, and once you overheated the plane once, it, as usually it goes with the, especially with the American planes, it goes very quickly again back to that overheated spot. Other nations have that as well, by the way. But yeah, that is a problem, and that is one of the main downsides of this plane. It is so pronounced, this overheating, that you gotta pay it constant attention, and that you really want to know about it. So yeah, that being said, it's a good plane, but bloody hell, man, I wish that overheating was a little bit less bad. Durability in the plane is good. It can take a hit or two, can take some damage. Flies reasonably well with damage as well, so you can usually get her home. The engine also doesn't die just like that. It's a radial engine, of course, so it can take a little bit more of a hit. Repair cost in the plane is 5,227 silver lions, which is slightly below average. It's quite nice to have, basically, for the plane. Not too great of a cost. You don't have to die too often in this plane, as long as your team doesn't get slaughtered when you're flying solo. But the repair cost definitely helps make it economically viable to fly this plane. The rewards in the plane for the RP rewards modifier is 581% with a 1.66 multiplier, and the Silver Lions have a 255% modifier with a 1.7 multiplier. Now for the RP this is average, and for the Silver Lions this is a bad reward. So it doesn't earn Silver Lions too much when it comes to that. This plane is an energy fighter first and foremost. She does it very well. It is the best role for the plane. It can of course boom and zoom a little bit, but she doesn't have the stopping power for that, really, to be honest. And your guns are just not good enough to be a good boom and zoomer and finish a plane off guaranteed with one pass. I mean, you never have that guaranteed, but with other planes you just have a lot more firepower to finish planes off. But this plane in a dive is not in its best environment when it comes to that as well. But she can boom and zoom a little bit. She can fulfill the close air support role very nicely. And she can also dogfight quite a bit at this battle rating. She is a quite maneuverable plane. And yeah, that is a good thing to have as well. So I would actually call this plane a little bit of a jack of all trades that can do everything reasonably well to very well, with the energy fighting role being quite good. Its main role, its main strength, energy fighting, and the other roles you can fulfill quite nicely. Even the dogfighting role at this battle rating is a thing that is one of her strengths, and the transitioning between the roles there and the versatility of the plane when it comes to that, and the many modes that it can play in, makes it quite an attractive plane to fly. It just has a couple of downsides which get to me and get to your patience. It makes it a frustrating plane to fly, and that is what you just saw, getting a crit on a 109 with a good hitting, with a good amount of hitting bullets there, and you just don't get it. And that is the 450 cals. The firepower is just a little bit on the lower end there, and yeah, it can be quite frustrating. You need a lot more time sometimes on the target, and at this battle rating is just subpar, that armament. But as I said, you can also ground pound in this plane, and that is something that is one of its strengths. For the rest, the overheating is an issue, as I said, of course, but yeah, that is what it is sometimes. So we got the scoreboard of the first match with the 4 kills and the 1 AI plane. We've got Final Blow, the best squad, Terror of the Sky, and Bulletproof, 44,000 Silver Lions and 14,000 research points, with my wager continuing. Hey guys, so here we are after the match. The F8F-1 Bearcat is a plane that is very nice. It's a small target, that's another advantage of the plane. She is short and stubby, she is powerful, but she overheats like a crazy man, and she doesn't have the guns. She does have a lot of options, which is nice. As I said before, the versatility in the plane is awesome, both when it comes to mode and what you can do with it technically. I really like it when it comes to that, for its speed, for its handling, for the performance, but I hate the constant management of the overheating and the 450 cals that at this battle rating just give you a headache, and yeah, it doesn't quite do it for me. But the belts that I use, by the way, are the tracer belts. That's what I use usually. If you want a surprise factor, you can use the stealth belt, and universal can work as well. Ground has a lot of AP in it, and you can definitely use that for ground pounding if you want, but 450 cals, man, it is an issue. It is an issue. No matter how many nice things this plane has to offer, Those two main downsides are the thing that makes this Bearcat not as desirable as it could be at a 5.0 battle rating. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button, become part of this community. If you are already a subscriber, don't forget to like the video, do leave me a comment, and if you really feel like helping out today, make sure to share the video with your friends and let them know about the channel.